Kings and queens, welcome back to the second channel. The Jason PTB is finally here, and after playing him a lot, I feel pretty confident in saying that this killer is genuinely fun. Before we get into the tier list ranking, before we talk about whether, he's strong or weak or overpowered or overwhelming or anything like that, I want to give some credit where credit is due. I mean, I think there's no beating around the bush. Jason feels good. I mean, he really captures the fun that some of these other killers don't have, and a killer like Wesker, for example, has. At least that's one of the characters that's fun to me, where you physically are throwing survivors and getting these really satisfying hits. Except with Jason, you're doing it from a range with a spear. And honestly, that alone makes him feel very different from a lot of other killers on the roster. I mean, with Wesker, right? You have to be pretty direct. Like, you need to be in front of the survivor. Sure, you can do some crazy attacks, but the average person, not really. You need to get close, you need to get the right line of sight, and you need to actually slam into somebody, With Jason, you can literally throw the spear over obstacles. Certain obstacles, we'll say, and hit survivors in a way that feels very satisfying. On top of that, you can push them out of a loop or a window or somewhere that they're planning on going. That is probably the biggest thing that stood out to me immediately. The spear is just fun to use. It feels good to use. It feels like you're getting rewarded. It's very rewarded to get that hit. When you miss, it usually feels like you messed up, not exactly like, oh, this power sucks, I can't do anything. And on top of that, Jason has come with some amazing Moris. The spare Mori alone is sick. I mean, we got two of them, and then we have the regular good old Mori. Dead by Daylight did a really, really good job capturing the brutality and style of Jason without making him feel clunky and boring. And again, I know some people are disappointed and maybe upset that there's no map or survivors to go along with this, which I think is completely fair. It's just that there's not much they can do, so we'll take what we can get. But yeah, that's one thing I wanted to highlight really early. I think Jason is fun, not just on the killer side, on both sides. I mean, as killer, obviously you throw the spare, you get crazy shots, you break through the loops, and then, jump scaring survivors and getting like their aura reveal is nice. But even as survivor playing against them, I actually had a good time. It felt satisfying. For me, it's similar to Huntress when you're dodging the spear. It feels very similar to the hatchets. Now, I know for some people, maybe you don't like going against projectile killers, and that's completely fair. For me, it might, it feels completely different. Like, it might be night and day for the two of us if you don't like it. I really, really like a killer that has a dangerous power, and you have the chance to outplay that. And I feel that Jason is that, similar to Hillbilly, where he can dodge some of his chainsaws, or even Deathslinger to an extent. When he misses the spare, you get a moment where you pretty much survive, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, like, let's reposition, let's zoop again, and it just keeps the chase going to where it also feels satisfying that you did something good or made a move that made Jason mess up. That type of interaction, I feel, is super duper healthy for the game, and I wish we had more of that in DBD. It feels like that classic DBD feel. And you guys know me, I always rather that than something that feels like a forced counter. I talk about forced counters quite a lot, especially on the main channel. And again, in case you don't know what I mean by this, is that a killer where the counterplay feels more or less entwined into the gameplay. Sorry, not entwined into the gameplay, but it's more of like, do this and you will counter the killer. The best example that I can give you is like Singularity with the EMP. Get the item, get the EMP, you stop most of his power. Same with Alien. Get the flame turret, stop Alien. Personally, I never loved that design. I understand why it's there. It's just not for me. And Jason doesn't have that at all. Jason's counterplay is just good gameplay. You dodge, you mind game him, you break line of sight, you fake movement, whatever the case may be, you're just trying to make a miss. And this is similar to why I like going against Huntresses or Deathslingers, even if they're really, really good, because you know that guy or whoever's playing is good. And that type of killer design, I just really, really enjoy. Now, the second part of his power is his Mr. Ghost ability, whatever you want to call it. I forgot the actual name of it. Actually, I have DBD open, I could just look. It is called the Jump Scare ability, right? Omnipresent Evil and Jump Scare. Well, Omnipresent Evil, I guess it's what we're calling. And it's most familiar and feeling to spare it. He goes into the fog mode, and survivors are pretty much dealing with Oblivious. They don't know where he's at. There's a bunch of fog. He can pop out in locations and pretty much jump scare them, which is they're just screaming and he sees their auras. That part of the power has a lot of potential and some crazy builds. Anything that pretty much plays around Oblivious and Undetectable with aura reading and has that chase pressure always feel really interesting, and those kind of builds are synergized beautifully with some of the perks. And because he can use the mist to interact with pallets, vaults, breakable walls, it gives him a lot more depth than I even originally anticipated. That's where like the skill expression really starts to show, and I gotta say, he's one of the killers that will get me to actually break the breakable walls, because I don't normally break breakable walls, so it's satisfying just doing the one kick. There's some crazy things you can do with Jason, and you'll see it in the gameplay in the background, but there's certain vaults on certain maps that are not designed for you to go a certain way. Garden of Joy is a good example of this, where the window upstairs, you know, it's only meant to go one way and you fall down, but Jason can do some insane stuff and completely change how that loop works. And the Garden of Pain is not much of a big deal. But this, on the other hand, is a big deal. This is really satisfying. This is really cool. And in the gameplay in the background that you're seeing on Midwich, I did that a few times. A lot of the older maps in DBD, like I said, they weren't built with that kind of power in mind. So Jason can make some traditionally strong loops feel a lot weaker if a player knows what they're doing. And that's where I think the skill expression really shines. And that's, to me, what makes him really exciting about his power in general. A good Jason is going to be pretty scary to go against, because if he truly understands the map and understands, you know, what he can do with the mist and understand where he should position himself, and then you're really good at using that spare, it's gonna be tough to beat him. On the topic of the spare, I want to talk about it a little bit more directly because it's obviously the main part of his kit. I feel like the omnipresent movement is more of the secondary ability. This is what actually does damages survivors, right? The hitbox on this spare is pretty small. It feels closer to Deathslinger in a way where you have to be pretty accurate. This isn't like Huntress's beach balls where like you're getting some really generous hits, even though in the gameplay you will see some generous hits. It's not like super duper precise, but it is pretty precise. Unlike Deathslinger, where their hitboxes might be pretty similar or the same, it doesn't have that traditional set in stone range, and you can pretty much still kind of arc it, but it's mainly just a straight shot. So it's not necessarily like Huntress or Springtrap with an arc, and it's Deathslinger with essentially infinite range with a tiny bit of arc. And that gives him a really high ceiling. He's not a Huntress 2.0 or a Springtrap 2.0. Obviously, there's a ton of similarities, and I won't blame anybody for saying that, but Huntress has that big projectile, right? You can't really go precise shots, and then it's an arc. Deathslinger has that small precision, right? But it has a limited range, and then Springtrap is just a big arc, right? So it's completely different. Jason kind of sits in that unique middle ground where the spare is more direct, more precise, and extremely satisfying when it lands. And honestly, I think it feels fun for both sides, even more so than Huntress and a Springtrap, at least to me. You know, I really like going against this character and just kind of like looking around to see, okay, where is he gonna pop up? Like, let's be ready. And honestly, I feel like it rivals Wesker in terms of just pure fun, and that's a really big compliment, because Wesker is one of the best feeling killers, at least for me, in the game on an enjoyment standpoint. Obviously there's bugs with attacks, and that's because of engines and blah, but he feels good in the same sort of way. So again, I tip my crown to the devs for that one. That sounded corny to say. Normally I keep that in the outro. But yeah, he feels good to play as, he feels good to play against. I got nothing but good things, which is actually kind of hard for DBD to pull off. You know, there's been killers with complex powers. I feel like this one's simple. They definitely played it safe, which, you know, we don't know if the licensors want that or they just didn't want to mess up the character. Overall, I think it's pretty fun. It feels good. But the big question, and the reason why you clicked on this video, is where does Jason land on a tier list? Is he good? Is he top tier? Is he mid? Is he weak? Is he gonna dominate in the high MMR games? Well, you know, I'm no hens or odds, so I can't give you the whole spiel on how he's going to be in comp, but for me and just your average player, maybe above average if, you know, I've been playing for a while, I think Jason is probably about B tier, maybe B plus. I don't think he's one of the strongest killers in the game, especially since in PTB you're not playing against the best company, but I also don't think he's that bad at all. He has a lot going for him. If you're a really good player, he might even be A minus. His biggest strength is obviously Despair. Despair gives him a strong chase pressure, great zoning, and a lot of skill expression. Even if you're not hitting insane cross-map shots every single game, the threat of Despair forces survivors to pretty much move differently. It has a little bit of a slow windup, but that alone is still pretty valuable. Survivors respect it, they have to dodge, and you can zone them and control their pathing into really good ways. Not to mention that if you hit somebody with Despair, it pushes them out of a loop or out of the direction that they're going, which is really beneficial to you because you could catch them in a really awkward position to 2-tap them. Jason also gets a lot of value with the locked-in animation, similar to pretty much any range killer. You know, if a survivor's vaulting, dropping a pallet, committing, or doing predictable movement, it's really hard to miss with Jason. I also like that the end of his spare also goes directly to where it needs to go. It feels very smooth to play as him. Some people might even use crosshairs. I don't even think you need it for him. And there's still crazy things that you can do, like crazy long range shots, you know, shots through the wall. There's a lot of skill expression there, and you know, you're only going to probably get like maybe one in every like 2 or 3 matches if you're good, and you know, if you're really top tier, you get a lot of these. But you know, the rest of your hits are going to come from pretty much animation lock-ins or just good reacts or some nice hits. I didn't even mention that if you hit a survivor, you can multi-hit survivors, which is also a big pro. And speaking about those pros, his mobility, the miss ability gives him a way to move around the map and apply pressure pretty much outside of chase, and just go to generators. You can even use it while in chase, which I've done in gameplay, and it's pretty stellar. When we talk about strength in Dead by Daylight, we talk about the 2 biggest things. Is the power effective in chase, and is the power good in mobility? And if a killer typically has both of these, they're gonna end up high on a tier list, unless one side really outweighs the other. And for Jason, he has both of these, and both of these are pretty good, which already puts him in a pretty decent spot. Use Despair for your chase, obviously use your Omni movement to move around and even cut off folks in loops, and this can also be used to go to break pallets, break walls, whatever the case may be. The Ghost ability to speed boost, which is pretty fast as well, is pretty good. The whole kit overall feels very smooth and very satisfying, and if you're really good, like I said, you're gonna have a breeze with this killer. Now, to me, it doesn't feel like anything's too janky. I know some of the animations could probably use some work. The more he's missing like the gas can, but overall it feels really, really nice. And yeah, I'm pretty satisfying with it. Reloading as well, that's something I want to touch on, doesn't feel annoying. You know, like back in the days, Huntress might feel a little bit annoying, like leaving chase, going to a locker. I feel like reloading with the hooks and like the bags of just random tools is really nice. You just keep it pushing, hook somebody on the hook, you get another one. It feels good. It doesn't feel like a task that you need to constantly manage. It's more so you're in the flow of gameplay. If you need to like dip out for a second, you can, and it works pretty well. That's a good thing. Again, these are all amazing pros. But of course, you know, we've only talked about the good. Let's talk a little bit about his weaknesses, which admittedly there's not too much. The biggest one for a lot of people is that he's going to be a 4.4 killer. I have no problem with this personally, just because of how nice his kit is, but that means you're going to be moving slower than your typical M1 killers, which he's not. He's a range killer, so you can expect that trade-off to happen. I don't think it's a huge problem. I think it's still worth noting though, because a lot of people won't necessarily be satisfied, especially if you're just running in tight loops against good survivors that greed. It can be a little tough. If you miss your spare, you know, you can lose that time. If a survivor dodges well, you can lose that pressure. But the thing that I like about this is that it's more so your own gameplay. These are things that you can improve upon, but the 4.4 definitely can be a little bit of a hindrance. It does depend. And the wind up of pulling up and then tossing, you know, if someone does greed, you're going to lose a lot of distance. But for that reason, those are one of the reasons I'm not putting him in like S or A tier, right? I definitely don't think he's S tier or even like mid A tier. He could be in the right hands, as I said. When you play against like bots or weaker survivors, you know, Jason can feel really, really strong, and that's what the PTB is. So we can't get the full expression. That's why I'm not a fan of making these videos like immediately after. I still like to get a lot of games in, but we won't know until he fully hits live servers, and then they do their changes, and there's probably already changes that are waiting for approval that are already submitted to like Xbox and Sony, so we'll have to wait and see. But that's kind of like the biggest drawback, I'd say, to Jason. And besides that, it's just if you're missing or not. And I can't judge that too harshly because it's dependent on player skill. For the average person, I think you'd hit most of your shots. But if anything, that makes it more fun to me to play as and against. And if we're talking on pure power, if you're good at it, you're good at it. If you're not, you're not, similar to Nurse. So when ranking him, I just wanted to be realistic with that. And I think that keeps him at a good spot at B- or B, maybe even like an A- if you're really good, as I said. But if we have to give an average, let's just say B, maybe B+, actually. I take back the B-. I don't know why I said B-. B+, B. I think on my good days, I'm a B+, regular B, and a really stellar player, A-, maybe potentially even A. And with the right perk builds, you know, with his ability and his add-ons, you can synergize and keep a lot of things going. And yeah, overall, Jason just feels like a very good, well-rounded killer. He's great at chase, he's great at mobility, he has skill expression, he has a fun factor, a lot of fun factor, and has enough counterplay for the survivors to still feel like they have a chance, and that's why we're going to put him in the B+ category. B+ is where we're going to go. And again, if you're amazing with Despair and you're good with you know, the skill expression, and you know where to pop up, like you can be a low A tier or even high A tier. But for me, I'm going with B+. Let me know what you guys think about Jason in the comments down below. I'm just excited that Jason is here. He's good, he's fun, he has the potential to be really, really good, but I don't think he's going to be one of those characters that completely breaks the game. So I'm hoping that behavior doesn't actually just nerf him to the ground. And I think he's good here. I think he's in a really, really nice spot. I had so much fun today on the PTB. I wish the service could handle it. I'm sure they didn't anticipate so much people coming in, but I just want to say thank you as well, guys, for always showing your support on these videos. Literally, I told you guys that I make these videos just for the fun of it, to yap. And in probably the 4 videos that we posted, I am potentially waiting for YouTube to update everything, but I should be able to even monetize this channel. So shout out to you guys. I really appreciate that. It's been insane. Gotta thank Jason as well for all of you guys coming to watch all the gameplay. Again, if you ever decide to use Code King in the Auric Sell shop to pick up Jason or any cosmetics, I knew something new launched today. Make sure you're using Code King. Show some support. Even if you're just inputting the code, join our Discord server. Let me know. You'll be entered into a running for a Dead by Daylight U2s, as well as a couple of things that I'll be getting from Montreal when I head over to the trip. We'll see exactly what we get and what I'll give away. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Jason. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? At the end of the day, the most important opinion is your very own. And as always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.